I still remember the first time I saw that house. It wasn't just a house, it looked like a castle. A massive iron gate opened into a long driveway lined with tall trees that stood like soldiers, guarding the secrets inside. The windows were huge, the walls were tall, and the silence was heavy, almost painful. The agency told me a rich man needed help around the house. They said the job paid well, but they didn't say much else. At just 20 years old, I needed the money. I had no parents, no siblings to depend on, and barely any savings. I told myself it was just another job. But the moment I stepped through those doors, I knew this wasn't just another house. The marble floors echoed under my shoes. The chandeliers looked expensive, but dusty, and the air smelled like loneliness. I thought rich houses would be full of laughter, family, music. But here, it was emptiness dressed in gold. That's when I saw him, Mr. David. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark suit that looked like it belonged to someone important. But the man himself, he looked tired. His eyes were heavy, his face pale, like someone had taken away his soul. He didn't smile when I introduced myself. He just nodded and said, "The staff will show you your duties." And that was it. For the first week, I barely saw him. He spent hours locked in his office, working or maybe just hiding. When I cleaned his study, I saw empty glasses of whiskey, papers left unfinished, and a photograph of a woman. In a golden frame, his wife. She was beautiful, smiling brightly. But later, I heard the whispers from the older staff. She had left him for another man. Suddenly, his loneliness made sense. He wasn't just rich, he was broken. Days turned into weeks. My routine was simple: wake up early, cook breakfast, dust the halls, do laundry, prepare dinner. The house was huge, but cold. And yet, little by little, I noticed something strange. He began noticing me. It started with small things. He'd look at me a second too long at breakfast. He'd ask me to refill his coffee, even when it wasn't empty. And one evening, something happened that changed everything. I was setting the dinner table. The fire crackled in the fireplace, and he sat there, glass of whiskey in hand, staring into the flames. Out of nowhere, he spoke. "Do you believe people can love you and still betray you?" I froze, spoon still in my hand. I wasn't sure if he was talking to me or to himself, but his eyes, sad, tired, searching, were fixed on me. I whispered, "If they betray you, maybe it wasn't love at all." For the first time, he really looked at me. His eyes softened, and in that moment, the air shifted between us. After that night, he started talking to me more. At first, just casual questions: "How's your work? Do you like the food here?" But slowly, the questions became personal. One day, while I was washing dishes, he asked, "What about your family?" I told him the truth. How I lost my parents young. How I grew up working odd jobs. How I had no one waiting for me. His face changed. Not pity, something else. Something gentler. "You've been through a lot," he said softly. It felt strange. No one ever cared to ask about me before. I was just a maid, invisible most of the time. But with him, I was starting to feel seen. I'll never forget that night. The sky roared with thunder. Rain poured down, like it wanted to wash the whole world away. The power went out, and the house was swallowed in darkness. I lit candles in the hallway, the wax dripping onto my hands. As I walked with the candle, I slipped on the wet floor. Before I could fall, a strong hand caught me. It was him. For a second, we stood there, too close. His hand around my arm, my face inches from his chest. The candle flickered between us, shadows dancing across his face. Our eyes met. My heart pounded so loud I thought he could hear it. I pulled away quickly, mumbling, "Thank you." But after that night, nothing was the same. He began inviting me to sit at the dinner table instead of eating alone. He'd watch me laugh at small things, his eyes softening. Sometimes he'd walk into the kitchen and just stand there, watching me cook, asking about my day. One evening, as I served him soup, he said quietly, "You make this house feel alive again." My hands trembled. I wanted to reply, but no words came out. And then, one evening, everything changed. I was trimming flowers in the garden when he came outside. The sunset painted the sky orange, but his face looked pale, almost fragile. He took a deep breath. "I don't want to be alone anymore," he whispered. "And I don't want you to just be the maid here. I want you to be part of my life." My throat closed. Tears filled my eyes. I had nothing, no family, no riches, no name. But in that moment, none of it mattered, because love had found me in the most unexpected place. Months passed, and our bond grew. He treated me with respect, with kindness. He made me feel like I belonged. And then, one evening, under those same silent trees that had scared me on my first day, he knelt down and asked me to marry him. I said yes with tears in my eyes. I had walked into that mansion as a poor maid with nothing, but I walked out one day as his wife, not because of money, not because of pity, but because two broken hearts had healed together. When news spread that Mr. David was seeing me differently, the whispers started inside the mansion. "She's just a maid. How can he even think about her?" One of the older servants muttered when they thought I couldn't hear. The words cut me deep. Every step I took through that house, I felt the stares. I wanted to hide, to run, but then I remembered his words, "You make this house feel alive again." That night, when I was serving dinner quietly, he looked at me and asked, "Why are you so quiet tonight?" I hesitated, then told him. I told him everything, the gossip, the judgment, the whispers behind my back. He put his fork down, leaned back, and said firmly, "Don't listen to them. Let them talk. They don't know your worth, but I do." His words warmed me like a blanket. One afternoon, his ex-wife showed up. I was in the hallway when she walked in, beautiful, dressed in silk, smelling of perfume and arrogance. She glanced at me with disdain, like I was invisible. She turned to him and said, "David, you can't be serious. You with her, a maid." I froze, shame burning my skin. But his reply shocked me. His voice was calm but sharp. "Yes, with her. Because she's more honest, more kind, and more loyal than you ever were." Her face went pale. She stormed out, slamming the door. And that day, I realized this wasn't just about me being his maid. This was about him choosing love over pride. The wedding was small. No big crowd, no fancy decorations. Just us, a few close friends, and vows spoken from the heart. When he placed the ring on my finger, my hands shook. Tears rolled down my cheeks because I never thought someone like me, a poor girl who once scrubbed floors, would be standing here as a bride. That night, when we entered our room, he surprised me. The bed was decorated with rose petals. Candles flickered softly. On the table was my favorite food, which I had once casually mentioned I liked. He looked at me with such gentleness and said, "I don't need anything else tonight. Just you, here with me." I cried again, but this time they were tears of joy. Days turned into weeks, and I was no longer the maid. I was his wife, his partner, his friend. I helped him rebuild his life, and he helped me believe in mine. Together, we made that cold mansion warm again, filling it with laughter, love, and life. And sometimes, when I walked past the grand mirrors, I still saw that maid in me, the girl with tired eyes, holding a mop, But now, beside her, I also saw a woman who was loved, respected, and cherished. From maid to wife, from nobody to somebody's everything.